Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Hager number AB850 5x4.5 IHT stainless steel 32D. This is an exceptionally special hinge, unusual to sell it because of how specific its application is. This would be a hinge that would be rated for what would certainly completely defeat and cause a standard hinge to fail. This has a lot going for it in the sense of what it is. Primarily, what I'm referring to is its ability to carry an exceptional amount of weight, a weight range that would really exceed what hinges can handle. I have seen 1/8 of an inch lead line doors hung on hinges, and you can just see the hinges beg for mercy. I don't recall the weight of that door. I'd have to look up the weight of lead per square foot, but it was, I told the client, you can't hang this door on hinges, and it was on a 3-piece knockdown drywall frame, and they went ahead and did it anyway. And I think I know that within the first week, the door was no longer closing. That knockdown drywall frame had everything to do with it as well, but the hinges were they were bent. I was called back to the job to look at some other stuff. Hey, you remember when you told us we needed to use pivots? You want to take a look at that door? And the hinge, the swag on the hinge leaf was no longer standard. So this hinge is rated for applications that are akin to that. What makes it so? Well, a number of things. The height. This is a 5-inch tall hinge, and it's 4.5 inch wide. The additional 1/2 inch in height, I've read a statistic somewhere that going from a 4.5 to a 5 gives this hinge about a 20% increase in ability to handle weight. That's got it going for it. It's classified as a heavyweight hinge, and in the world of hinges, there's residential weight, about 96 thousandths. There's commercial weight, about 134 thousandths. And then there's heavyweight, which is about 180 thousandths. Those numbers go up a little bit when you deal with a 5-inch hinge. This hinge is 190 thousandths, and my caliper should tell me something quite close to that. My caliper is telling me 0.184, 184 thousandths thick on that hinge leaf. It's got that going for it. What it's got going for it that no other hinge really has, other than an IHT AB850, are these welded knuckles. They have literally run a bead of weld between the knuckle and the hinge itself and the barrel itself. If you study a standard hinge, you'll see that's made from a single piece of steel or metal or whatever it is, and that it's rolled over, but it's not continuous there. They've gone back and welded that shut, and that gives it an ability to handle an obscene amount of weight. So let's dissect the part number a bit. It's an IHT, institutional hospital tip is what I would call that. They call it an institutional prison hinge. That is a reference to that tip that's on the hinge itself. When you look at it in profile, you can see that is sloped, welded hospital tip and plug, completely welded and closed off. The application where this hinge is very likely being used, that's for ligature resistant or what was called anti-ligature. The concept is when that hinge is hung on a door, or when you're hanging a door with this hinge, it doesn't give you any real surface area to hang something onto. The purpose is whatever you apply over this, maybe a belt or a shoelace, will fall off. You'll also see hinges like this used in hospital applications because they serve towards the needs of the user for cleanliness. There's nothing that can get in there that's been welded, closed, and ground completely clean. Okay? So it's for ligature resistance and cleanliness is where you'll see a tip like this. But in this case, being called an institutional prison hinge, it'd be for ligature resistance. This is an AB850. That means that it is a heavyweight hinge, that it is a 3-knuckle hinge, heavyweight and 3-knuckle. It means that it is a non-ferrous base material. This hinge is stainless steel, solid stainless, with a satin brushed finish. Concealed bearings inside of here also allow the hinge to not only present a clean appearance, but also serve to handle the weight of the door that it's being asked to carry. Lots of options can be done on this hinge given the potential application, such as torque screws. Speaking of screws, you're getting fasteners with this, typical fasteners. Be mindful to specify the quantity of or the type and quantity of fasteners. This package would be half wood screws and all metal screws. So if you're doing steel by steel, you're fine. If you're doing wood, steel frame wood door, you're fine. You could be doing a lead line door. But if you're doing wood by wood, you're not going to get enough fasteners. So be mindful in the comment field, indicate the quantity of fasteners and the makeup of those fasteners that you'd like to see, and we'll pass that information to the factory. So security screws, electric monitor and electric monitor. Basically, you can put a switch in here that will report back to a central station or whatever your imagination can come up with. If you want to have an annunciator, if you want to have a light go off, if you want to have another door lock, a prison application will have its own, it certainly has its own chapter in NFPA 101 for life safety. So you could have things done with a monitor that's in there. That's the EMN. You can do an ETW, electric through wire. If you need to pass wires through this, get electricity from the door to the frame, it can be done that way. You can do a combination of both, transfer and monitoring. Reverse safety stud and safety stud. Let's take a look at what reverse safety stud is. I actually have to look that up. Let's take a look. We've got two concepts that we're discussing. We've got a safety stud and then a reverse safety stud. I know what the safety stud is, and I assumed that a reverse was the opposite of that, which it is. So between the two types, the more common is a safety stud, and that is basically a security feature to a hinge. There's no way to drive the pin out of this hinge. There's just no way to do it because there's no pin to drive out. And as a result, I don't know that you would necessarily specify a safety stud with this hinge because you can't separate the leaves anyway. Except, I suppose, if you cut that barrel off, they really wouldn't help because the safety stud would not permit you to separate the leaves. What the safety stud is, it's about the diameter of a nickel, maybe a dime, in that range, and it's about 1/4 inch thick, maybe a little thicker. And it's a feature that literally sits right here. Little circle that sits right here. There's a hole in the other leaf. The stud goes into the hole. Now you get the idea that you can't separate the leaves. Even if you cut that barrel off, you're not going to separate the leaves. You would have to jack the frame open to be able to get the stud to come out of the hole in order to separate. A reverse safety stud is where those same dime quarter size protrusions, I guess, are on the back side of each leaf, and there is a preparation done in the hinge plate of the frame and a preparation done in the hinge plate of the door. Same concept. You can't split those out. The leaves won't come apart. You would not know if you had reverse safety studs because you can't see it. I have definitely seen safety stud hinges out in the wild along with the NRP version, which is not an option on this. And it is a belt and suspenders approach. Even if you were to drive the pin out of an NRP, which is all but impossible anyway, you still can't take the door out because you've got the safety stud locking in place. This hinge is considered detention hardware. It's literally intended for prison detention applications. So I would definitely think that you could consider a reverse safety stud in terms of standard equipment on such a hinge for that application. There will be, by the time you're seeing this video, a link to the PDF showing the reverse safety stud. Yep, that'll be added there. A 5x4.5. It's also available in a 4.5, 4.5, or a 5x5. You get into the 5-inch wide version. You're really dealing with a door that's thicker than 1 3/4. A 2-inch thick door, probably at a minimum, is where you would start with that. 5x4.5 is going to be an incredibly common size hinge for this. Hager, in the link below this video to the product catalog, they actually have a hinge rated for more weight than this. Their IHTAB850, that hinge is 3/8 of an inch. Pardon me, that hinge is 187 thousandths. But the way in which they construct the hinge together on the size of the barrel permits it to go up to doors up to 600 pounds. So be mindful that you might be looking for something that can handle something heavier. Now, people don't necessarily just buy these for detention applications. I've sold these hinges for people doing things that are incredibly unusual, like a door in an amateur sound studio. People will take a 5x5 hinge. People will take literally 2 3070 doors, 1 3/8 thick, and glue them together. Put cork, put sound deadening material, and make these exceptionally thick doors that end up being really nothing special, but they're really heavy because of what they've done to it. So you'll see hinges like this used in applications other than what they're intended for, only because they can carry the weight. Moving through the rest of the extended description, we've covered everything there. The rest of the part number does indicate US32D, institutional hinge, full mortise. It's a full mortise hinge because of the swag on the hinge leaves here and here. When the leaves are brought parallel to each other, they're meant to be mortised flush to the edge of the door and frame so that you have that consistent margin between the two leaves. Okay, stainless steel. Let's see if it's available in any other variants of finish options. If it's made of stainless steel, so you could do it in polished stainless. I don't know that anyone would really ever order that. This is listed, in fact, only in US32D, which is 630 finish or satin solid stainless. This is specified as made in the United States. Not typical for everything Hager across the board. This hinge happens to be domestically manufactured, so keep that in mind. Finally, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Hager products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Any questions on the Hager? This is their part number IHTAB850, 5x4.5, 32D solid stainless detention or institutional prison hinge, or any other Hager product. Please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.